Hello, everyone, and welcome to our research series called From the Lab to the Streets. This is a research series provided by the Parent Encouragement Program, and my name is Zamzam. I'm the Parent Encouragement Specialist, and this is our introduction episode. And I'll talk a little bit more about what this research is about and what to expect. But for now, let's get into it. So, before we begin, what is research? Um, this is the dictionary definition of research, and to put it in common language, it is a process, it is a way to investigate a specific situation or experience by trying to answer questions that a researcher has thought about. And if the research is done properly or correct, this could lead to new knowledge that we hadn't known before due to research. And so research is a process. It's a way of doing something very specifically. And before we get into the process, let's just talk a little bit about um, what is research. And so there's a correct way and an incorrect way to do research. Hopefully, if somebody's doing correct and sound research, they will be following these steps. And it's important to know that there are a lot of people involved in the approval, the monitoring, the reading of research, and that in the past research has been used in a way that has been unethical and cruel. And so because of past experiences, there have been measurements that have been put in place to make sure that whatever research is being done is it's safe, it's ethical. You're answering a question that is important and hasn't been already done, so it's necessary. Um, it's accurate. The way that you're presenting the research, the way you're talking about your data, all of that is accurate, and all of that is also monitored through a review process as well. And people that are experts in the field that know what you're talking about will read your paper and then approve it. Yeah. So the research process, these are 8 steps. And these are very general ways to do a research project. The first is to identify a problem. What is it that you are trying to solve? Um, so if we're going to go by an example, so my example would be what what is the importance of learning more than one language, right? That's my situation. It doesn't have to be an issue. It just can be an answer that nobody has sort of answered before. And step two would be to review the literature. So what that means is that you would look at other research articles and see what other people have done. And um, that's important first because you don't want to do research that somebody has already done. Um, and also it's important because it gives you knowledge about what do we know about a certain situation. So for my example, if I'm talking about languages, I would probably read articles about people who have studied people who speak more than one language. What do they find? Are they different from people who are monolingual, who speak one language? And that would be me looking at the literature. And step three would be to develop your research question. What is the question that you're trying to answer? And so if we continue with our example, my question would be, do people who speak more than one language have a better advantage um, in brain development? Does their brain get stronger because they speak more than one language? So that's a random question. And then so I would have what we call a hypothesis. So that's like an assumption, an educated guess. What do I think is the answer to that question? And so I would say if you speak more than one language, you're using a lot of different parts of your brain. And I would say that speaking more than one language helps somebody, um, helps their brain. That's just my assumption. I don't know yet. I haven't done the research, but that is what I think. And then you would design your research. So there's a different way to design different research projects. A lot of people, when they think about research, they probably think about like lab rats or medication. And so that's one form of that's one field of research. And so right now we are specifically talking about like social behavior research, so people and experiences. So for my design, I would probably want two groups of people. One group, they speak only one language, the other group speaks two languages, and then I would have them do a task or an activity and maybe hook them up to some kind of machine and see what their brain is doing while they're doing the activity. So that would be my design. And then number 5 would be to pick a sample. I already sort of talked about who I'm gonna research. So one group would be people who speak one language, and the other group would be people who speak two languages. So that's my sample. And then I would collect the data. I would look at I would actually do the research project and have people do the activity. Um, and then my next step would be to look at what I found. And so I would look at the brain maps that I figured out, that I collected. I would look at the activities. Did the people who spoke more than two languages, um, did they answer the questions faster? Did they answer the questions more accurately? Um, was there a difference in the two groups? And then your last step would be to write the report and write what you found. And the cool thing about research is that even if you haven't basically answered your question, you would still report what you found, and hopefully maybe somebody would create a different design and find a different way to answer your question. But either way, you sort of are asking questions that haven't happened before or that haven't been asked before, and that is um, what we call advancing the field. So you're adding either new information or a new way to think about something. So that was a very long example of what the research process looks like. So why is research important? First of all, it's a way to help us understand specific problems or issues. If we have a question, we'll go through the process and hopefully figure out um, either have a better understanding of it or maybe even answer the question. Um, and new knowledge can influence policy. So for example, if in my example, if I found that people who speak dual languages, two languages, have better brain development, maybe that will influence school policy, and people um, will have better access to language learning programs earlier when they're younger. Or community centers will provide free language learning classes. Um, all of that can be influenced by research. And research gives us evidence to questions that or assumptions that we probably have. So, for example, if I'm a teacher and I know that my student is not doing so well, and I'm thinking their parent has been through a traumatic experience, and I think it's impacting the child. If I do a research, or if there's research out there about how trauma is passed down from parent to child, that could sort of help answer the questions about or make a stronger connection about like what the teacher is seeing in the classroom. And that helps like, the teacher better understand how to help the child because they have a better context or information. And that's because of research. And so, what is the purpose of this series that we're doing? Unfortunately, right now, research is very exclusive. That means only a limited amount of people have access to it. Sometimes these research articles are paid, so you have to pay for them, or only people who have access to databases at universities can look up these articles, and that doesn't help the communities that the research articles are about. And sometimes these papers are written very advanced, and so it's hard to understand for everybody to understand. And hopefully, this series will put it into common language that um, we can all appreciate the research. Um, And our second reason is to sort of increase the amount of research that our immigrant community has access to about the immigrant community. So our series will look specifically about research articles that talk about immigrant communities, what their experiences are, what is happening in the communities, and when we do that, hopefully it will connect communities that are struggling with the same or similar issues. And we know that if there are a lot of different communities that have the same problem, then that's what we call a systemic issue, which means it's not just about the individual or the family or the community. There is something bigger at play, and it'll help us understand what's happening in the lives of our immigrant communities. Um, so hopefully, and also, um, as connected the immigrant community is, it's also very diverse, right? Everybody has their own experience, and they share similar experiences. So being able to separate what is specific to this community and what is general to immigrant communities at large is very important. An example is that all immigrants are not refugees, right? And so some immigrants who came as refugees might have a different experience than immigrants that did not come as refugees. Um, and so hopefully that'll help communities better understand each other and also themselves. And what to expect from the series. Hopefully, every episode we will look at one research article and talk about it. The articles can be lengthy and complicated, so we will have two parts for each episode. The first part will talk about why the researcher thinks this is important, what is the problem, and then what questions did the researcher ask. And then part two will talk about how the research was done. What did they do? Did they talk to people? Did they look at surveys? What did they do? And then what was the results? What did they find in their research? And what does that mean? What do their results mean for people like us who are immigrants? And hopefully each episode, an average would be 5 minutes. So I'm going to try to summarize as much as I can to help us be engaged. So that is what to expect. As always, you can access more information and webinars and infographics at our parent encouragement webpage at our website, womenofwise.org. And you can always email me directly for specific questions or clarifications or something. Um, or if you have specific articles you would like me to read and review. And thank you for your time. Hopefully, our first episode will be out soon. And stay tuned. Thank you.